Hey, what's up, guys? This is Reed with Rapid Response Training, joined again by the inevitable Buel Collins of Terminal Outcomes. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you,
Can't
brother.
get it. Can't get enough of you.
Hey, I'm like that. I'm like a rash, baby. I just keep coming back.
How's my audio? Can you pick up anything?
You sound great. You sound
All right.
smooth. The sexiest voice on the internet today.
All right. I mean, it's your lie. You tell it however you want.
Hey, dude, I had the lady at the airport this last week. I was just checking my bag. She's like, "Man, you got a really nice voice." I said, "Thank you. That'd be a great compliment if you were hot, but you're not." She was
Yeah,
nice though.
that's always how it is.
Yeah,
That's always how it is. The aggressive flirting is from the people you don't want it from.
yeah. She was an aggressive flirter and an aggressive eater.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
I think I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think I have an idea what you're saying. So we're here tonight. We're going to talk about a couple things. First, we're going to talk about how low power variable optics (LPVOs) are dumb, and if you have it, you're dumb, and uh, and you should feel bad about yourself. And uh, and we're also going to talk about some terminal outcome stuff. So
Yeah.
Um, that's what your Buell Collins of Terminal Outcomes. So why don't you tell us what Terminal Outcomes is and what has been happening and what we can expect?
Yeah, so thanks, man. Terminal Outcomes is the training company that I recently stood up. I got certified as an instructor so I can get insured and get my concealed carry curriculum. Yeah,
Certified.
yeah, certified. Get my concealed carry curriculum approved by the sheriff's department here. I'll be doing some multi-state CCWs here in Nevada. I want to use that as a feeder slash advertising for my curriculum that I wrote myself. Currently, I have a terminal application of pistol and terminal application of carbine, both 2-day curriculums. And what we really focus on is the civilian context. I'm a civilian. I've been carrying a gun every day since 2008. And the things I've learned along the way through life experience and then taking professional training, learning from some of the top firearm instructors in the world. And I want to impart some of that knowledge on people that are eager to learn and are interested in protecting themselves, their family, potentially their communities. But everything comes from a civilian, just a good guy with a gun, if you will. And a friend of ours used to say, teaching good people to kill bad people since 1996. And I guess what I would say is if you're a good guy and you want to learn how to teach bad guys how to fuck around and find out, come see me and I can help you out.
Very good. So you're going to do some pistol, some rifle, and you got plans to do some other stuff too?
Yeah, I'm. Those curriculums are done. They're, you know, uh, set and I've already done my shakeout runs and taught a couple of those classes, and then I'm developing a shotgun, a defensive shotgun class, terminal application of shotgun. You see the kind of naming system I have there, but shotgun I believe will be next, and then as we move forward through things, I'll open up uh, different avenues of learning. Maybe a medical class would probably be after that. I'm also working on a very specific curriculum. I did real estate for the last 6 years, and there is a propensity for those people to be targets or be victimized. And I'm working on a kind of a specialty curriculum where I can go in and teach realtors kind of the principles of awareness, and failing this victim selection process, avoidance, deterrence, de-escalation, those type of things, and kind of how to be mindful and aware of what's going on, some of the things to look out for, and to keep them safe. A lot of them are also women that get targeted in that world. So um, kind of teaching them some of the gift of fear stuff, and trying to help that particular section or segment of society to be better prepared should they unfortunately be targeted for robbery or rape or anything stuff like that.
Okay. So some rifles, some pistol,
Yeah,
uh,
pistol.
some rifles, some pistol, some shotguns, some medical, and some specialty stuff. I like it. And who's your target audience, man? Who you train?
Anybody, man. Anybody
Okay.
that's willing to take a step down the path. Like I said, it is civilian focused, but if you are military or law enforcement, and there are some differences to carrying a gun, as you know, as if you're a cop on duty versus just a civilian going around town. I know cops are civilians. I'm not saying that, but there are contextual differences and some different considerations, and I think that really what I'm looking for are people that are either on the path or are looking to get on the path and help them take those first few steps. And then really one of the big goals of mine too is to be an ambassador for the gun culture and get people going down the path. And then, what would make me feel successful is if my students showed up to someone else's school and they were proficient and competent and able to be a squared away student and continue their journey down the path. So really, I think it would be people that are maybe at the beginning or in the middle of their journey. I'm not some super squirrel ninja guy that can teach the highest level of Delta Force CQB or something like that, but I do have uh, value to bring in the context of carrying a gun every day, protecting yourself, your family, and your community. So I would say probably, yeah, that someone that's either starting or is somewhere a few years into the journey would be cool.
Awesome. I like it. And I think there's so what you keep pointing out is like, hey, I'm just a guy, I'm just a citizen, I'm a good guy with a gun, right? Like I'm not doing this professionally. I am doing this in order to protect myself
Yep.
and the people I care about. Um, that's it's a very valuable context. It is turns out super applicable, and for other people who want to be able to do that, which is typically who's taking the classes. But also, I think there's a big application for uh, police military who are potentially going to look at doing a little bit as part of their job. So I know most of them aren't doing that. Like most cops are not off duty, they are, which essentially puts them right into that category, right? But most cops aren't doing that on duty, right? The whole like concealed plainclothes type of deal.
Yeah.
But it's and the context is still different, but it's there's difference running concealed versus from a duty belt with all your toys. So
Yeah, and having a radio with you know 15 other officers on duty, and it's even what you're going, where your obligations as an officer come into play versus the lines you draw as a civilian, and what you're going to um, how you're going to run into problems, I guess is what I should say.
yeah,
That there's a big difference there.
and I think it's cool to also to mix to have both types of people in class and
Hmm.
they can kind of learn from each other.
Yep.
I think
No,
it's
and
cool.
and I can only come at it from my experience, but a lot of people that I've learned from are former law enforcement or current law enforcement, and the value that they bring, mainly because of the reps they get, right? The amount of things that they see uh, through a 5, 10, 20-year career in law enforcement, they're going to see a lot of things and have a lot of experience that will say, hey, I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen. This has gone right. This has gone wrong. Me and my partner learned this the hard way, or something like that. So there's definitely a value to that and having those life experiences.
For sure. Uh, yeah. So that's awesome. That's It sounds like you're following a very similar path to what I'm doing. I started off with pistol rifle medical as my core stuff. I'm not a shotgun guy. I don't. I'm gonna have a podcast on that about how shotguns are antiquated and I dare say obsolete.
Well, I get where you're coming from. Shotgun's not my first choice. I can tell you kind of my path to that pistol rifle to shotgun, where commonality of what people have in the U.S. And to be honest, where I'm at with my medical knowledge, I need to increase that quite a bit before I'm comfortable teaching people. So that while I wouldn't say a shotgun is, shotgun knowledge is more important to have than the medical knowledge, the level of knowledge that I feel like I would need in the medical world to be able to teach is I'm not there yet. So there was
strengths,
that,
bro, because I don't have the shotgun stuff down. So
and I looked at it like, okay, if I'm looking to train people on how to protect themselves, their family, their community, what are the most likely tools they're going to have to do that? Pistol, carbine, an intermediate chambered rifle, and then a shotgun would be the kind of that progression there. So I figured if I can cover those three bases, I can cover what people will be using, the highest likelihood of them using that, and then I can continue to learn and develop my skills as I go, and then I can add curriculum based on that.
Yeah, in rural and semi-rural areas, everybody's got a shotgun.
Oh yeah,
everybody. Where in my area, it's like pistols.
Yep.
Everybody's got pistols.
Yep.
And the ARs are kind of like you got to be into it a little bit if you're going to have some sort of a rifle, which typically, I mean, this is America. It means AR.
Yep.
It's America's gun. Cool. I like it. So speaking of rifles, and you've got an Instagram page up and going.
Yep.
And you have
Terminal Outcomes.
Yeah, Terminal Outcomes on Instagram, and I'll link that in the description. Do you have a YouTube page going? I know you got your own Ginger Magic.
Yeah, I'm gonna start putting videos up on that channel. So still the Ginger Magic channel. And then I may rebrand it to Terminal Outcomes. I just got to see how that goes. Yeah, I might rename it and see how that goes.
Drop a little intro into your existing videos.
Yeah. And then the other thing is terminaloutcomes.us is the website. It is under construction now. So that will be live here soon. So people can check that out. Check out our courses, the descriptions, see if they're into that kind of thing, and then dates and things to follow.
If you remind me, I can put that up once it's in the description, once it's functional. You're not the only one with a non-functional website. A mutual friend of ours told me his website, and I tried to click it so I could like copy and paste the link. I was like, "Yeah, this doesn't work, dude."
Yeah. Bunk link. This is a bunk link.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about rifles. LVPOs, man.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because I can tell you there's already a problem with these things because I always say LVPO. Okay, you can't even get a freaking acronym.
Low variable power optic.
Yeah, I just have it backwards in my head for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I think they annoy me already. Yeah, they annoy me already because the damn acronym. Okay.
Okay, so low power variable optic, and what we're talking about right now is like you got an M4, pretty much. Like again, this is America, and you're gonna have a scope on there, like a scope, right? And not like an ACOG or some sort of prism thing, and not like a red dot. You're gonna have like a real scope. But you want this thing to be able to work up close and far away because you don't know where your fight's going to be, right? So low power variable optic for people under a rock that don't know, uh, that's like a 1-2 something variable power optic, right? So you can like zoom, right? So that's opposed to fixed power, which is like you get what you get, right? Like an ACOG is a prism optic. It's a fixed power optic. So if it's a 4-power ACOG, you get 4 power or 4 power. You get all the time. Whereas a variable power scope, I can take that from 1 power and I can zoom it in to whatever my number is, right? So typically those are like between 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 1 to 8. And then I'm only aware of one company, maybe there's more now that are doing a 1 to 10 power. Yeah. And so that's a whole other topic. We can dive into that just a little bit. But here's my hot take. Okay. LVPOs are stupid. They don't so I'll give you my best argument. Okay. Is people say that they're just as good, or the just as good argument, right? Hilarious. Or they're like, it's almost as good. Like it's so close to being as good as a red dot for like up close, fast, like blah, 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 whatever. And maybe they're right. I've not, in my very limited experience, I've not really found that to be the case. So I find because of the eye box and parallax, because so parallax is like when you look through a scope, you've got to be looking directly through it, right? Hold on, how can I? Yeah, there we go. You got to be looking like directly through it. Otherwise, it's gonna be like half shadowed out. So it's a long tube, right? So if you're not looking at it directly through it, you're like half looking at part of the wall of the tube, right? So it's called scope shadow for people that don't know. And so this is something that can be a problem. Some dudes obviously can train around it, especially like the competitors, like the 3-gunners or whatever. But they're making a sacrifice in the up close and fast realm. And if I have one sacrifice I don't want to make, it's that.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I'm glad you said that about the 3-gun, because I think that they're the 3-gun people, God bless their souls, they're partially responsible for popularizing these things. And you're talking about eye relief and the scope shadow, and parallax is the relationship between your eye, the target, and the lenses interfering with that or throwing that off. So if you don't have all that stuff exactly dialed in, the sight picture can be corrupted. So and when they say it's just as good or almost as good for up close, I haven't found that to be the case. And then if you start getting into the world of night vision and stuff, you start giving up even more. I think on the benefit side, they would say is that you increase your operational envelope as far as distance and being able to see and identify things from further away, which is a benefit. I think another drawback that you have to consider is the weight that you're putting on there, especially once you start getting up to the ones you're talking about, 1 to 8, 1 to 10s now. They start adding significant weight to the rifle. And when you were talking about explaining them, you went through kind of a history of the progression of these things. When they first started coming around, there were a lot of 1 to 4s, 1 to 6, and as they've gone on, they've just gotten more and more powerful as far as the magnification goes. And if I were to have to have one, or if it came down to using one, I think the 1-6 is what I would consider the sweet spot there, the Goldilocks zone. But once you get above that, like I said, it starts getting even heavier and things like that. So I don't see the juice being worth the squeeze in doing a L low power variable, LPVO.
Hey, there
Almost
we go.
busted up again.
There we go.
Um,
Sounded it out.
yeah. Had a little lag there in my brain, but if I wanted to be able to see better further, I would just put a magnifier behind the red dot here, and then I would still have a true red dot and an actual.
I didn't know you were a desert warrior, dude.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm in the desert. Gotta blend in with the sagebrush.
You're a desert warrior. You're was it Desert Fox? What did they call those SAS guys with all the machine guns and the Jeeps?
Well, the Desert Fox was Erwin Rommel. He was SS. He didn't have the A. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
No, what did they call those guys? Desert Rats.
Desert Rats. There you go.
Yeah,
in the Land Cruisers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, I'm out here in the desert, son.
Yeah, man. You peak GWAT over there.
Yeah. If you look out in my backyard, right? You look out. This is the colors of the mountains right now. There's a little bit of green in there, and there's a little bit of dark brown, and mostly light brown. So
there you go.
That's how you roll with that thing, and blend in.
All right. Cool. So drawbacks. Let's keep talking about that just a little bit. I'm gonna switch my headphone out because it gave me a ding dong. I don't want to get low on battery there.
Don't get low on the ding dong, son.
So yeah, when I say I don't want to give up anything in the up close and fast realm, man, that's going to be where the gunfight is. Like we say that, like, well, I don't know where my gunfight's going to be, so I want to make sure I have like this scope on here that can do everything. Well, I have a pretty good idea. Like for a rifle fight, if I'm going to have this rifle and fight with it, I have a pretty good idea that it's going to be like the corner of my bedroom to my bedroom door. It's going to be the longest distance in my house, like of a hallway or like room to room, like if you got open concept.
Yeah.
Or it'll be 1 to 2 car lengths.
Yeah. The distance of your car, the longest distance that you can see in your house. And the reality is you can shoot a red dot pretty easily, excess of 100, even 200 yards, right? Like you can. So yeah, if you know you need to shoot that person.
So exactly. So we know we're talking about for just citizens, for just dudes, right? There's a pretty high likelihood that this thing is going to be like really, really close. Friend and mentor, Jay Gibson, arguably the finest firearms instructor walking the planet today, aka the Nightmare. He said something to me a couple of years ago, and I have not, like, it's stuck in my brain, like I can't get out of my head. And I tried to get him on video, and that man hates a camera talking about this. But he said rifle fights, he said all rifle fights will be inside 25 meters.
Yeah.
And when he said this, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. Okay. And he caveated when he means rifle fight, he means like dude with a rifle versus dude with a rifle, right? Like that kind of thing, not like a sniping kind of thing, right?
Yep.
That's its own context,
different weight class.
Yep. And not like dudes blasting trench to trench, right? And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and include that because what's happening in Ukraine right now is completely artificial. What we're seeing is not the future of warfare. What we're seeing is a failure of future warfare. Neither side has been able to, and I'm totally out of my league here. And some tacticians, some military strategist or tactician will get in the comments and be like, "You're retarded," and I'll be like, "Yes." But from what I've been able to understand by listening to some of those type of people, is they have failed to achieve maneuver warfare, and that is why we've seen a regression into attrition warfare.
Yep.
So what we're seeing now is not necessarily what we can expect to see. Also, it's arbitrary because the Russians would have achieved successful maneuver warfare had it not been for like the entire rest of the world being like, here, we'll give you everything short of troops.
Yeah. Well, I think you're on a very interesting line of thought there that I've thought about this with that particular conflict, and that it is a throwback to an older style of conflict, but it's utilizing much more modern tools in that, with the drones and and so on and so forth. But really what it is it's the last death throes before the next thing, is the way I look at it. Is
could be
there are sea changes that come about from certain conflicts, and I think this will be one of the conflicts that marks kind of maybe the end of what we're seeing with the trench stuff. Maybe not, I could be wrong. But even up to this point, we haven't seen entrenched positions quite like that in a long time.
Well, people have tried it.
Yeah, and
people have tried it, and like, turns out the Iraq military tried that against us. And maneuver warfare
and air power, maneuver warfare and air power.
Did the maneuver warfare? Yeah, it wasn't even the. That's the thing, is like, they're like, oh, we're gonna line up in these trenches and like fight, and we were just like, nah, we're not interested in that, and just we're gonna breach one section and just send everybody through to the other side, and everybody on the right and left of that trench is essentially doing nothing until they just get driven over by bulldozers, like armored bulldozers going down. And like, honestly, you don't even necessarily have to do that, because like by the time they can start causing problems, I mean, the war had been over. So, or the invasion part of the war, before the whole insurgency thing happened.
Well, yeah. So you're talking about Iraq too.
Yeah. But regardless, this is something that Jay went on to elaborate. Is the days of like lining up and shooting at each other are over, and they're not coming back. Like, the days of battle lines are over, and they're not coming back. Even the days of like, maybe this is a little bit of a stretch, but at least currently it's kind of true. The days of like the uniforms and being able to tell like that's the enemy are kind of over, because guess what? Everybody's wearing multicam.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Why do you think both sides have that tape and shit on their arms?
They have to have it because they look alike.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got white dudes that speak Russian fighting other white dudes that speak what sounds exactly like Russian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they're wearing the same stuff. They're using the same guns. Like, they look the same, and which is why they have to wear this tape, to identify, because it's more dangerous to get blasted by your own dudes than it is to get spotted because you're wearing yellow tape or red tape.
Well, and like that's, you know, fourth generation warfare is that the what you were talking about before, where it's more irregular, ununiformed forces.
Well, they're wearing uniforms. You just can't tell
Well, in the
Ukraine
Russian one, you know, you're right. They are wearing uniforms, but in most conflicts, even most conflicts that are currently going on outside of Ukraine, Russia, you have at least one side of the conflict that is ununiformed.
Yeah.
You know, they're in their fucking Haji pajamas or their
not anymore, dude.
Or their Congo outfits, you know, depending on if it's Africa, the Middle East, or whatever. But that's kind of when it went from third generation to
the Taliban wears multicam now.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
My tax dollars.
Yep. Our tax
but yeah,
dollars.
that was a hallmark thing moving into that. But to your point on the stuff being up close within 25 yards, I agree with that. And when something is that close, I need to have an answer right now. The closer this is, the sooner I need it to end. Right. So the thing to your point, the thing I do not want to give up at all is the speed component of it, and being quicker into imposing my will rather than getting shot.
And let me throw out another example here, because once I start, it's like Musashi, right? Like once you see the way broadly, you see it in all things, right? So sorry to get a little bit nerdy on you there. But Adam from Spirit of Systems, he was doing a Q&A on his Instagram, and somebody asked him his average engagement distance in Afghanistan. And he was like 500 plus meters. And another dude got on and said that or 15 meters, no in between.
Yeah.
And he was like 100% absolutely, this is totally true, which is so interesting because of that thing that Jay had said, right? And it just got me thinking, like, how true that what Jay said is because the military fighting in Afghanistan, their average engagement is 500 plus meters. You know what they're not doing? They're not getting in a rifle fight. Like, if that's all they have, they might try to use that to whatever, to the maximum effect they're able to use it. But 500 meters, like, they're using crew served weapons, like 308 machine guns, 50 cal machine guns. They're using mortars. They're using like shoulder fired munitions, like some sort of a rocket thing.
Air power.
They're talking to the radio and having an airplane like drop a bomb on that guy's head. So, or artillery or whatever, right? So now, for us, if we get engaged at 500 meters, like, first of all, what are the odds?
Yeah, something went really wrong.
And then secondly, if we do get engaged at 500 meters, can we PID? Like, can we legally and ethically make this shot? And maybe legally is like out the window, because it's like, I don't care if it's legal, because if it's like, if I don't do it, I'm going to die.
Yeah, that's a tomorrow problem.
And okay, fine. But that's still something to consider, because generally, like, that is something that for dudes, like, just walking around doing everyday life, that's a thing. And then additionally, like, we just got done doing small unit tactics, right? So if you and if Omega Team, right, we're back together again, dude, and we take contact at 500 meters, like, we can just bounce.
Yeah.
Like, we can just break contact. We don't really, like, maybe we'll shoot in it a little bit in order to, like, get them to put their heads down, or to, like, maybe not shoot at us quite so much.
Yeah, so we can skate.
But that's not really what we're doing there. Is not necessarily engaging in a rifle versus rifle fight. What we're doing there is like uh, we're just gonna put some fire down to allow movement, and then we're gonna get out of here. Like I don't, not really super interested in killing these guys. If I was, we'd start maneuvering in order to
Yeah.
do that. But a 500-meter engagement, like I mean, we don't have Casevac. We don't have like field hospitals and like surgeons and shit. So probably if I get engaged at 500 meters, I might be like, hey man, like you guys have fun with that. Well, we're just not going to be here.
Yeah.
So um, that's something that like when I think about the rifle on rifle fight, I think about like in the house, whether that's military law enforcement or regular guy. I think about that vehicle tactics type of scenario. Um, and or I think like in a military context too, I think about the trench stuff, right? So when they're assaulting the trenches
Mm-hmm.
and talk about inside 25 meters, man, those guys are like inside 5 meters.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of evidence that the highest likelihood I need this gun to like fight with, like to win a fight with, right, is going to be super close and super fast. It also, um, so why would I optimize my gun for the 1% of situations? Why wouldn't I want to optimize it for the 99% situations? And then, like you were saying, man, it's not hard to shoot an unmagnified optic at distance.
Yeah.
So, like, uh, I took, I shot my 11 and a half inch AR pistol at 400 yards on steel. It's a Trijicon MRO, no magnification. And am I hitting it every shot 100%? No. But like, I can make that hit.
Yeah.
Like I know I can hold where my hold needs to be in order to make that hit. And that's simple zeroing. If you know your zero, like you're good at least to 400. And depending on what you got going on, you can be good further than that. Um,
Well, yeah, knowing your zero and understanding zero theory and your holdovers
yeah.
will get you out
And
there. And
confirming it.
yeah, and then I think that also, you saying, do you hit every shot every time? No, but at that distance, that probably isn't the point. And if it was the point, uh, you would have went there with something that was more uh, geared towards that purpose. Now, what I'll say on the positive side, or what I could say if we're gonna steel man the LPVO gun, is if I was a dude that I only had one gun, and that gun was gonna do a bunch of different stuff for me, and I lived on a ranch in Montana or South Dakota or Texas, and I was using it to protect my family and stuff like that, but also protect my livestock and shoot coyotes or you know mountain lions or whatever it may be. And there was a case where I would be using it more regularly to engage probably non-human threats out further, right? Things that would be doing harm to my livestock. Then I would say, okay, I'm limited to this one gun, and you can what if this to make a perfect scenario all you want, and you're an
Sure.
asshole and all that stuff. But what I would say is I could see where it would be a benefit to someone, this person that I am, fabricating. I have one gun. It goes with me everywhere on my ranch or my property. I'm protecting myself, my livestock, and I'm having to take longer shots more regularly than I would in simply a self-defense context where, home invasion, carjack, whatever, the things we were talking about before. So I could see where someone would get use out of it like that. But the way I would set that gun up is something that you brought up when we were talking about this previously, is I would actually have a real optic that was a 2 or 3 power to 12 or 10 or 12 or something like that, and then I'd put a an RMR or an acro or something on top of that, and then the way that's set up, if you look at it, the red dot becomes very similar to this on this Unity mount. It's up nice and tall. It's the same thing as me using a red dot normally as I do now. And then if I needed to get that long range precision shot on whatever, then I would get behind the scope, and it would be a very intentional and deliberate thing that I was doing. And in that context, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be humping the rifle around. I wouldn't be worried as much about the weight of the gun and things like that.
So that's a good point. And this is what I want to bring up to preemptively strike the arguments against my perspective, right? So they're going to be like, dude, it's just as good on 1 power as a red dot. Like, it's so close you'll never notice it. You just got to train more, like whatever they say. And I'm like, okay, maybe. But if that's true, then why does every dude with an LVPO have a red dot on that gun? It's either on a 45. It's either on a 45-degree offset, or it's on a 12 o'clock piggyback mount.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I'll throw up I'll throw up a photo here. So here's a picture of a gun with an LVPO on it, right? And this is kind of what the Optic was designed to do, right? It's a standalone optic. Like, we're streamlined, we're as light as we can be. We are adding some weight in exchange for the magnification. But that's pretty good setup for a fighting rifle. Somebody might argue, well, it doesn't have iron sights, and you might be right. But versus mutual friend of ours, Don Edwards, and you can see he's got a Trijicon RMR mounted at the 12 o'clock. So point being, if it's so good at the 1X, at the up close and fast, why does everybody put a red dot on the gun? And then what they do is they have the red dot on the gun, right? So they're like, well, I'm not going to leave this at 1 power, because if it's up close and fast, I'm just going to use the red dot anyway. Yep. So what they do is they max out the magnification, or I'll caveat, they set it to the max magnification they want, right? Because here's another downside to some of the LVPOs. So they'll max it out to 6 or 8 power, and they're like, well, if it's a far shot, I'll look in my scope. And if it's a close shot, I'll drop that gun down just a little bit, pick my head up, and I'll look in that red dot.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. If you're doing that, why not just have an SPR, a special purpose rifle? Why not just have a designated marksman's rifle, like whatever you want to call that thing, with a real scope that you can really shoot with? I don't mean to say you can't shoot with LVPOs. Of course you can, right? And you can do it very well. I'm talking like a Night Force ATACR, like 4 to 18 power with like the Horus Tremor 3 reticle, right? Like something real that I can actually do, like special purpose rifle, designated marksman rifle type of stuff. Like, I can do my distance estimation, my wind holds. I can do all sorts of stuff with this reticle.
Well, I think we lost him. We'll give him a second. He'll come back. I promise. I hope he comes back, because I can't turn this thing off without him. So this might be the infinite live stream or the infinite podcast. We'll see. But we're going to pose this question to Reed when he gets back. And something he's getting at there is we're doing a trade-off for this magnification, 1 to 6, 1 to 8, whatever it may be. And in the instance that Reed is talking about with a red dot on top and then an LPVO on the bottom, why would I have redundancy in the 1 power? He's back. I told you he'd be back.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back.
So here's where I would simplify what you're saying, I guess, would be a way to a way to talk about, or maybe look at it from a separate angle.
Sure.
So as you said, we are doing a trade-off. We're giving something up, the weight, all this stuff, to get this magnification, right? So I'm going to get 1 to 6 or 1 to 8, right? But then I'm going to put another 1 power on the top of the scope.
Yeah.
Why do I want redundancy in a 1
Exactly.
power? I have two of
Exactly.
the same things.
Yep.
So now, why wouldn't I just, if I'm going to have two things going on, why don't I have one that does this thing and one that does the other thing, and have them both be good at that, instead of having the 40 caliber of optics on the bottom there? It's the best of both worlds. Like, why would I do that? Like, if I'm going to have a 1 power, let the 1 power do the 1 power stuff, and then let the magnified optic be a real magnified optic. And then with that, you can also, get a bigger objective lens, which lets more light in there and let you see better. Doesn't help you shoot better, lets you see better. We know that, but why not make
those? Seeing good is part of shooting good, so
it helps.
Yeah.
But the point is why would I have two things taking up space and weight to do the same thing, right? Oh, what if one fails? Okay, cool, whatever. But I don't think that's the real problem.
That's not why they're doing. That's not why they're doing it.
Yeah. So I would rather have two things that do each one of their jobs well than one that does a job well and one that's a half-assed attempt at it.
Yes. And exactly. So if I really need to shoot distance, or if I really need to shoot, we'll call it medium distance, like we'll call it the 1 to 200 meters, but I need to be really precise. But I still need this thing to fight with, like up close fast. Why not just have a DMR? And I just don't see, the only reason I can see is weight and cost. But again, if you really need it, then you're going to carry the weight. And like, let's be honest, it's not that heavy. Like, it sucks, but like,
Nothing's that heavy, baby.
Yeah, it's not that heavy, right? It's certainly not as heavy as, like, we were just talking about that new Army rifle that'll probably last about 5 minutes. The SIG 6.8, like big MCX, but like that gun with the silencer and with the optic and whatever else, like PEC 15 and whatever else they Surefire they got mounted to it, like that's gonna be way heavier of a gun than a DMR, right?
It's north of 13 pounds.
Yeah.
Without the, I think it's north of 13 pounds without the PEC or the flashlight. Because the way it comes from SIG, right, with the silencer, the optic, and that stuff, I believe it's north of 13 pounds. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, internet. You can drag me in the comments, but I'm almost certain.
Yeah.
So
and
considerable weight.
And I mean, it's a battle rifle, so that it's, when it's loaded, it's way heavier than an M4, right? So here's my point. We're going to optimize this gun for shooting distance, except we're not actually going to optimize it, because if we actually need to shoot distance, we'd have a DMR, right? Or we'd have like a sniper-y type of rifle. When we should be optimizing it for the up close and fast. And then we're gonna do that redundancy, like you were talking about, with that piggyback or offset red dot, which if I've got a 1 to 4 or a 1 to 6, and I just leave that cranked to 6 because I've got that piggyback optic, why not just have an ACOG with an RMR on top?
Yeah. Well, like
and the ACOG is better. It's cheaper. It's lighter. It's got a wider eye box. It's got clear glass. Like, it's like,
well, in our class, right?
You're
That's
doing
what
shit
Matt was
with
running.
extra steps. Yeah, exactly.
You know, he was running the ACOG with the RMR. I think he had his at 45. Yeah, he
Yeah,
had
he had
his
an
at a
offset.
45.
Yeah.
But you know, the other thing with this is you were talking about shit. Don't lose it. It's here. The the weight. Sorry, you were talking
Yeah.
about, oh, we give up weight and stuff like that. Going back to our context of people like you and I, civilians just, you know, roaming around the world. We're not hiking through the mountains with these fucking things looking for people. You know what I mean? Um, sure, there might be some of that. Like we might be like in a class or whatever, cruising around, patrolling and stuff like that. But the situations we're most likely going to find ourselves in, I guess the worst case that I could imagine or think that would pop up, it would be like a Hurricane Katrina situation, right? Something like this, a natural disaster, some sort of civil unrest where I'm at is no longer good to be at. I need to go somewhere, and a portion of that may be on foot, but it's probably not going to be, you know, super extended days on end hiking where the weight is going to be a super penalty. You know, so we can deal with that little bit of extra weight to get the benefit of that true, real magnified optic and the piggybacked red dot versus, you know, splitting the baby there and having, like I said, the 40 cal of optics.
Well, I think that argument cuts the other way. So I think one of the reasons LVPOs are so popular is because dudes don't have to carry them.
Yeah,
Like they're bulky and they're heavy and they're more delicate. And the reason they're popular is because dudes like keep them in their trunk and then they take them out and they shoot it on the flat range and then they put it back.
well,
And
each
they lean it up against the stuff. Like
yeah,
they lean it up
each
against
three
stuff when
gun
they're
stage
not
is like a minute
doing
long.
it. Dude, it's a minute long and they're not like yeah. So I think that is part of what's driving the popularity is that they can afford a little bit of extra weight because they don't have to carry it.
Yeah,
And like one of the things we did in the small unit tactics class, it was discussed like, oh, if we were doing this for real, uh, we wouldn't just be walking up and setting up. Like we would be inserting like the day before, like 12
mm,
miles away,
yeah,
and walking in, setting up in the dark,
yeah.
like before first light. And so I think,
Which means all of our gear and the water and the food and the stuff that
yeah,
we need to do that.
yeah.
You know.
So, and by the way, like having a heavy rifle, um, if you need it, you need it, right? Like if I need it, or I mean, obviously, look at military context. Like those dudes carry machine guns around; they're heavy as
Yeah,
fuck. Like if you need it, you need it, and you'll carry it.
yeah,
But if you don't need it, like what could I better have that weight doing, or like how much uh, how much better condition could I be in mentally and physically because I'm not fatigued to that level. Um, I mean, the heaviest thing that you're going to carry is what's in your hands. Like strapping stuff to your body is the easy part. Like that stuff's easy to carry in comparison.
yeah,
Like what I'm holding up in my hands, like walk around carrying 5 pound dumbbells like out in front of you, and like see how long you can do that. Um, or like because you have a child. Like
yeah,
holding the thing in your hand is what's difficult. Like if you can like lean that thing up on your shoulder, you'll be all right. But yeah, man. So that's part of my problem with it. Like what you said, man. I'm uh I'm biased. I'm a east of the Mississippi guy, so maybe it would make sense for somebody like in the Great Plains, right? Like you were saying, South Dakota, North Dakota,
yeah,
where they can look at it and legitimately say, yeah, I think my average engagement distance would be like, you know, more than 200 yards. Because if it's less than 200 yards, I still think the red dot's the move.
Well, yeah, and then we all like to that same point earlier. We have to open that up to non-human threats because, as we talked about before, the legal considerations, the moral, the ethical considerations of and the likelihood of us getting in a gunfight with a human, right? Obviously, that's who you're gunfighting with, an alien, I guess. But at those, at those distances, that's not what is
Well,
most
and here's the
likely
thing
going to
is
occur.
like typically, even in really bad spots, like even in like war zones in third world countries, like usually they're not just like seeing a guy and being like, let's shoot that guy
Yeah,
from really far away. Which, first of all, bad guys usually aren't that good at shooters.
yeah,
It's like, they're bad guys because they don't like put a lot of time and work into like dedicating and being good at stuff, right? So, and then secondly, usually they don't want to kill you just to kill you. They like want to get something from you, and they're
yeah,
going to kill you to do that. And they can't get something from you from 500 meters away. So, just like we talk about in concealed carry context, like your gunfight's going to be real close because
yeah. It's hard to rob you from across the
people
parking lot.
can't rape and rob you from across a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
unless they're gonna unless they're dead set that I just want to kill that guy for the fun of it.
Yeah,
Then maybe they'll. But again, man, they're usually not that good at shooters, and they know how far they need to be to hit what they're shooting at because they've done it before.
yeah. And
So
distance favors the marksman. So
exactly, and
yeah,
and the trained.
yep,
So uh, yeah, I think that's why LVPOs are stupid. Now, here's another big reason why they're stupid is because I can put a magnifier behind a red dot and get a whole bunch of magnification and not give up anything other than, I'm giving up a little bit of weight and cost. I'm not giving up performance.
yeah,
So I think, yeah, I, I think, I think part of the fascination with the LVPOs is people don't know, and I'm not talking about like hard pipe hitters, right? Like those dudes can do what they want to do. Like I got, all right. Uh, I'm talking about like, people like us, like dude
yep,
type dudes, and they don't know what it's going to look like, so they're like, can I really do it? Right? Like, first of all, I want to be ready for everything.
yeah,
So they don't know what it looks like. So they're like, I better be ready for everything. I better have every base covered. And then they're like, we're like, if you've been around, not that I've necessarily done any of the stuff we're referencing, I have been kind of around it, we'll say. Um, Once you have like a little bit of idea of like, all right, this is actually what's realistic, that becomes less of a concern. And then also it's a confidence thing. They're like, I don't know if I can really shoot good enough to do this.
yeah,
So I'm gonna get this thing that's gonna make me better. Um, and you know, I've got an expensive gun, and people on the internet tell me it's cool, and I can shoot really tight groups at my range. So like I must be ready.
yeah, yeah. A
Um,
little bit of what is that? That they're reinforcing their own ideas. The confirmation bias, something like this. I think that it's important to the point you made before. It's just like planning for a lot of for anything, right? You maybe in your area, flash floods might be a thing, or earthquakes might be a thing. Um, so when you start making a plan for an emergency, if you live in on the San Andreas Fault in California, you probably don't need a plan for tornadoes. You should probably figure out what the fuck you're going to need in an earthquake, and then work your way from that. You know, take care of that priority, the most probable thing that you're going to run into, and then you
ain't got to worry about blizzards.
Yeah, and then if you try and have a solution for everything, what you end up having is a half-ass everything. You don't really have it, and then you're going to find yourself in the most likely situation, and you're going to have a bunch of shit you don't need, and a bunch of stuff that you needed ain't going to be there. So it's like, start with the most likely thing and then work your way back from there. Same goes for your gun. As we said, it's probably going to be inside 25 meters, longest distance in your house, 2 car lengths, something like this. One guy, probably at least 2. The numbers would fall on multiple assailants, things like that. So what do I need to address that, and what does my plan look like, and how do I put together my gear so that I have the proper gear to address this? It is last on the list, but it's on the list, and you have to consider those things.
Yeah, well, gear's important. But like the reason why you choose something can, like, that's part of mindset too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the reason that I'm going to optimize this gun for 99% and not the 1% is because I have the mindset to be like, oh, this is realistic, and this isn't, right? And I'm gonna optimize my training for what I can expect to see. So,
and you have the mindset that you're taking it serious. You're putting serious thought and consideration into this because your mindset's in the right spot, and
not like, I'm gonna buy this cool scope because it's gonna make me shoot better.
Yeah, or because on my local, gun Facebook group, everybody is going to say, wow, you got the new, see-through walls 9000 from, whatever. And that has the, double underhook bullet drop and blah, blah, blah. It's like, fucking hell.
I might pay extra to see through walls, though. I'll be honest.
It's not a bad skill to have.
Yeah. Let's see. All right.
I can see through walls, but it's just when it's the clear part of the wall. It's like in some walls they put like a clear thing in the middle of it. I can see right through there.
Yeah. Yep. Doors.
Yeah. There you go. Windows.
Yeah, exactly. Also, at night, that is far superior, whether or not you have night vision.
Yeah, not even close.
But like looking through glass and not lenses, not having all that light have to funnel down this long tube, like, it's not it's so far superior.
And to your point, all that light, right? All the light going down the tube. Well, when we get in low light, failing light, altered light situations, you are at an extreme disadvantage. You know what I mean? Because there might not be all that much light to work with.
Yep. So, yeah, I think they're big and heavy. They're expensive. You're optimizing your gun for the 1%, not the 99%. And then the dudes that, people will throw a piggyback red dot somewhere in that gun because they actually need a red dot. And man, I don't know. Why not just have a designated marksman's rifle?
Yeah.
Like, be a DMR or be nothing. That's my take on the LVPOs. Somebody can come on here and be like, you're stupid. This is why they're amazing. There is something to be said for magnification. I think that's important, and not necessarily for long distance shooting, because I still think that's going to be very, very rare for most people, even most people in professional contexts. but shooting with extreme precision. So I think having magnification is a good idea. I don't have a problem with magnification. And if it's an LVPO, great, man. Like run your like be good at it, like know how to use it, um, be able to mitigate some of the downsides, right? Um, yeah, I think magnification is a good thing. I think I intend to put a magnifier on at least one of my guns. So yeah,
Yeah,
for that, like I'm I'm 40 meters away, but like all I have is
yeah.
like this much of the
And
bad guy's head to work with.
the point is not to bash magnification. We're not. No one has said anything negative about
Yeah, yeah.
magnification. We're talking about how you go about
How we
getting that
get there.
magnification and
Yeah.
what your logic and
Even
reasoning behind it is, and
the
that's where the
ACOG with
fuckery
the
becomes.
ACOG with the RMR,
Yeah.
like I kind of think that's probably better than LVPO. But I mean, case in point, dude, I don't have the video here. That would be great to drop it in. I should have saved pull it up before. But the Nashville school shooting with the transformer,
Mm-hmm.
um, or the I think they've had two. It's the first one with the transformer at the Christian school,
Oh,
where
Bumblebee.
they had the bad
Yeah.
person. I can't even say bad guy. The bad person had a was that a Caltech uh, the HS 2000 or whatever, that like foldable gun,
Yeah.
that the foldable pistol caliber carbine. So anyway, and that one kind of went a little famous because the officer, dude, the stud with the rifle and the LVPO, he had an LVPO on his gun. And they're like, oh, this is why it's so great. Man, if you watch that video, he's not looking through the
Yeah.
LVPO. He's looking through the red dot that's mounted on
Yeah.
that gun
Yeah. It was
when he's
like
shooting.
he was in the room. You know,
Yeah,
the funny thing about that too
it's a
is
big room, but it's still in the room.
yeah. Well, the funny thing about that, well, I don't know, funny is the right word for what happened there, but that you know how when people have a dog for a long time, they look like their dog.
Okay.
That transformer and their gun were like the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It was like
Yo,
that version of a gun was what that person had.
bro, saying somebody looks like a Caltech, I think that's worse than a hate crime. I'm pretty sure.
They can come find me.
Well,
Whatever.
they're dead. Rest in piss.
No, I mean the
So,
outrage mafia. The
oh yeah, yeah.
you
No,
know the
mass
plus
shooters
sign,
should
divided
be
minus sign, all the letters, whatever.
mass shooters should be ruthlessly mocked.
Yes.
Ruthlessly, they should be memed and utterly humiliated online, so that all the other copycats are like, "Man, I want attention, but I don't want to be a joke.
Yeah, I don't want
I don't
bad
want to
attention.
be a clown."
Yeah.
They want, what they want is to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And then when the media takes them seriously, guess what? People do it more.
Yeah. I tell you how
Meme
not to
them
get me to take you serious is
into hell.
to pretend like you're something else.
I
Can't take
mean,
you serious.
every mass shooter should be done that. Just might be, you know, an easier meme target if you look like a Keltec. So, all right. I'm trying to think if there's anything we didn't hit on LVPOs. Talked about.
I think we hit the points.
Yeah.
They're the
Whatever.
40 cal of optics. They cost more. They're heavier.
Oh, well, I have one more thing I want to say. I think I see this a lot in the training world. It's like dudes want to specialize, right? They're like, I'm gonna, like, they've got this Mad Max fantasy in their head, which, like, you know, who among us doesn't? But they've got their Mad Max fantasy in their head, right? Their I Am Legend fantasy, and they're like, I'm gonna be the sniper, like I'm gonna be the drone guy, I'm
Yeah.
gonna like whatever they're gonna be. Some dudes get crazy and they're like, I'm gonna be the canine guy, and they get a
Yeah.
dog that costs 20 grand and licks peanut butter off their body.
Yeah. Or buy seeds.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, that'll happen. Uh, like, man, be a generalist. Like the it sounds hack, it sounds but like the fundamentals, and I don't mean fundamentals like sight picture, sight alignment, like certainly, yeah, we want to do that, but I mean like just be a competent fighter.
Yeah.
Like be able to shoot your pistol, be able to shoot your rifle, be able to shoot a shotgun like you were talking about, be able to do some medical, be able to drive a car, be able to make a radio work. Like if like we don't need to be uh, the specialization. I think it's a little bit of ego. It's a little bit of fantasy,
It's a
and
fantasy that is, it's a fantasy that is um, doing a disservice to the person involved in the
to
fantasy.
to the individual. Yes,
Yeah.
and I think there's very few people I see out there that are like such experts at being generalists that it makes sense for them to like deep dive into like drones or radios or sniping or whatever.
Yeah, but that's also this is also a byproduct of the modern world that we see bleeding over into the training world, because nowadays in in society, people are actually specialists. They're specialists in their career field,
Yeah.
where it, through most of human history, you had to be the generalist. You had to be useful at a bunch of different stuff. But the way the modern world has unfolded, the Industrial Revolution has driven people down this path. Most people do one thing, and that's how they make their living, and then that's how they're mentally conditioned. So maybe they're a plumber, or a software engineer, or whatever it may be, but they don't have a lot of experience or uh, societal drive or pressure to encourage them to be good at a bunch of stuff. And one thing that I've heard in the past that I think will help people get over this hump is these things that you want to be able to do, and these skills that you want to be able to have. You need to make them your hobby, because you're probably going to make your money, your living, being a specialist at whatever it may be. But if you want to be well rounded and you want these other skills, you need to make those skills your hobby, and then get good at them through your hobby and your extra time, and then add a new hobby every so often. So that could be, if you want to be, better at being an outdoorsman, it might be primitive fire might be your hobby for a little while. Or you want to be a welder, or you want to have the skill to weld, start the hobby welding, or start, whatever it may be, farming. If start a little garden as a hobby, and learn that. And that way you can become more well-rounded and a better asset to the people you care about.
Yeah. Have your skills look like your rifle. Well
Yeah.
rounded. Generalist. Yeah.
Camel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like that is something that's going to be tough if we ever have to if slash when like real war happens again, like a World War II style, like near peer big deal,
Mm-hmm.
or if the Mad Max fantasy comes true. Um, People who can only do, the specialists are going to suffer, and it's going to be important that you know how to do some stuff.
Yeah.
So Yeah. Anyway, go see Buel, Terminal Outcomes on Instagram, Ginger Magic on YouTube for now, Ginger Magic 1775. I'll link that stuff. And if he reminds me, I'll even link his terminaloutcomes.us. And you can go to him and he will teach you how to use your rifle with or without an LVPO, LPVO.
See,
You
it
got me
got you.
doing
I
it.
told
You
you.
got me doing it, dude. You got me doing it. Or come to me and I'll teach you, or like whoever, man. Go get training. Yep.
Yep.
Go get
So
training.
get training, get squared away. Something that will be, I'll be reaching out to you for soon is maybe teaming up. You can teach me some of that low vis vehicle stuff.
Yeah.
Get some of that stuff going on, and maybe in the future we can do some kind of joint project there where we can
Love
bring the
it.
two coasts together, my brother.
I love it. Yep. We'll do it. So this is Reed with Rapid Response Training. Bill Collins, Terminal Outcomes, joining me yet again. And man, don't put an LVPO on your gun. Like,
Yeah,
don't be weird.
I'll do that.
Don't be
Just
weird.
praise Jesus, love your
That's
family,
right.
stay
Christ is
strapped,
Lord.
get jacked, all that good stuff.
All right.